Hey guys, welcome back to another meaningful Monday. My name is Joby Harwell, and I'm coming off of a weekend where it's getting a little chilly here, so my voice is acting a little weird because the weather's going back and forth. And yeah, I don't have COVID or anything. Don't worry about that. So thankfully, it's not the case. But yeah, welcome back to Meaningful Monday. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. Hope you enjoyed Halloween. For those of you who celebrate, for those of you who don't, I hope you just have a nice, restful, fun weekend. Nice little break from the week. Today, we're talking about a topic called feedback and what it means. It's a really valuable tool. A lot of good managers and good leaders use feedback on a regular basis. The ones that don't, or the not so great managers and leaders, tend to use it almost like as a punishment tool, as opposed to as a way to deliver exactly feedback. That whole idea of feedback is meant to give someone insight into what they're doing, whether they did a good job or a bad job. That's what people think in terms of good and bad, right? But in reality, feedback is actually neutral. It's neither. It's really what you do with it. And so if you choose to use feedback to develop yourself and to grow yourself and the idea of a growth mindset, then feedback is going to be positive always, because it's always going to help you to grow. If it's positive feedback, it helps you to understand, I'm going to reinforce and do what I'm doing right now more. If it's negative feedback, then it's saying, okay, here's what you can do to improve. Here's what didn't work this time, and let's change next time, make it better and better every single time. So in reality, there's no such thing as negative feedback or bad feedback. It's all just feedback. It's all information, and it helps you to grow no matter which way it tends to lean, whether it's in influencing behavioral change or whether it's reinforcing what you've already done. But a lot of managers don't know how to deliver feedback effectively, and then a lot of people don't know how to receive feedback effectively. So today we're talking about a little bit of both. So on the manager side of things, when you're delivering feedback, there's a whole idea of the good sandwich, right? You want to sandwich negative feedback in between two good pieces of bread, so to speak. So you give someone, some positive feedback, then negative feedback, then positive feedback. This works kind of well sometimes. It really depends, and this is kind of one of those things where it's kind of evolved over the years as feedback and as management styles have changed over the years. But that sandwich, that kind of good, bad, good feedback sandwich, kind of works generally well with people who like to receive positive feedback and want to get the bookends going and don't want to appear like it's all negative. But generally speaking, there are other people as well who just want to hear the feedback raw and very, very clear, and they don't want to feel like they're being BS'd, right? If people like that, you just want to give them honest feedback and go straight forward. If you only have one piece of good positive feedback for that person, and then you have like 4 pieces of constructive feedback. I use the word constructive instead of negative because it is constructive as opposed to just bad. But if you have constructive feedback, 5 pieces of that, so say for example, and you have 1 piece of positive feedback, then making up additional positive feedback just to sandwich it between the constructive feedback is going to come across as really disingenuous and inauthentic. And people think of that as can feel like that's patronizing. It can feel like it's not really you being authentic. It's not you being honest with them. And it feels like you're trying to, BSing them. And so they won't really take your feedback seriously. So be careful of that. Understand who you're delivering the feedback to and the style of the person. How will they receive it? What kind of person are they? Are they kind of the kind of person who prefers to be dealt with in a very honest, authentic way? Or are they someone who needs that kind of more of a hand-holding approach, kind of a softer delivery? If they're more the latter, then yeah, the feedback sandwich will probably be better for them. The other idea is to, like I said, just deliver the feedback directly and say, listen, here's what you did really well, and here's what you can improve on next time. If you do that on a general basis, all 5 things positive up front and all 5 things constructive up front, that's also a good way to do it as well. And again, it depends on the person and who you're talking to and the dynamics you have with that individual person. If you know that person is going to receive the feedback and interpret it negatively no matter what you say, then it kind of doesn't really matter what the approach is, does it? So keep that in mind as you're talking to different folks. Now, on the other side of things, on the side of receiving feedback, as an employee or as a person who's getting feedback from someone, I want to reiterate what I said in the beginning. Feedback is not negative or positive, right? It's not a bad or good thing. If you're getting constructive feedback, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Maybe it does, but it depends on what the feedback is and how you get it. But when you're looking at it as oh, you did something wrong, you messed up, that can be, you can dwell on that and say, oh, I really suck. I get really down on yourself and I really be like, oh, you're the worst. Or you can take it and say, okay, Now now I know what I need to do better next time, or now know I need to change next time and iterate on next time. Every chance in the future you have at that same kind of thing is now an opportunity to grow and to develop yourself and to build. And that's what the growth mindset's all about. If you have a growth mindset going into any kind of feedback session you have with your supervisor, manager, or business owner, or colleagues for that matter, then you're never going to feel like they're attacking you. They're never going to have that insecure feeling. But that's always driven by insecurity. The lack of a growth mindset is driven by insecurity, of the idea of like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe maybe I'm really messing up. Maybe I'm not cut out for this job. Maybe I'm not cut out for this kind of position. And those kind of thoughts get fueled by that perceived negative feedback. And so now you're saying that sitting there being down on yourself for what? Ultimately, that feedback is going to can help you grow, has a capacity to help you grow and build yourself up and to be better at what you were doing before. If you look at it that way, then there's no such thing as negative feedback. So when a supervisor is giving you feedback, even if they're not great at giving you feedback, you want to be better at receiving feedback, because that one, that makes their job easier. Two, it makes you better at whatever you're trying to do, because there's always room for growth. Even if you're amazing at what you do, there's always small things you can change. And the feedback's going to change over time as well. As you get better and better at what you do, it'll be harder for people to give you or find things to give you constructive feedback about. And so now you're able to say, okay, you know what? Before, for example, I had a lot of trouble with presentations, right? PowerPoint presentations, for example. I would read off the slides. This is not me. I'm just saying people generally do that, right? They read off the slides and they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to read what's on the screen. They get feedback about that. Hey, listen, when people are there and you're presenting to them, you don't want to necessarily read to them, because they can read that themselves. They want you to talk to them. They want you to listen, to tell your version of the story, and help them to understand your perspective on the content that you're presenting. Now you have that feedback. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to change my slides to make it so that they're bullet points. And so it's less reading on the slide, more of me and my interpretation and my perspective on things. And so they understand that I'm an expert in my field and what I do. Now you're doing that. Okay, cool. Now the conversation comes back. The next time you present, someone comes up and said, hey, great job with the slides. Next time you might want to speak a little slower. Okay, cool. Comes back. Same things again. You start changing things every single time and get better and better and better. Even if you're getting 1% better every single time, that's still positive progress. And that's what you want to be doing. Now, if you could also look at that as like, oh, everyone's always critical of me. Nothing's ever good enough. I'm the worst, blah, 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 blah. Go down that downward spiral. And suddenly it's all defensive. It's really frustrating. And that exact same feedback suddenly now is negative, not constructive, and doesn't help you to grow. See how the difference goes? So as someone receiving feedback, look at everything as feedback, as neither positive nor negative. Look at it as neutral. Look at it as just information that you're taking and saying, okay, how is this actionable to me? How can I make this actionable for myself? Now, the other caveat of this is that it depends on the source, right? If you're getting feedback from someone who's critical of everyone all the time just to be critical, then maybe take that with a grain of salt. But if you're getting feedback from someone who's a mentor of yours, someone you know, like, and respect, and they respect you and want to see you do better, then you know now that person actually wants the best for me. I'm going to take their feedback really seriously. So keep that in mind as well. So those are some things you talk about with feedback in terms of around that concept of feedback and how to receive it and how to deliver it. Now, this is obviously just a very, very tip of the iceberg around these kinds of concepts. But feedback is a really essential component of any kind of manager-employee relationship, any kind of business owner-employee relationship, any kind of constructive colleague relationship or team member relationship. Most of the most effective teams nowadays, they take time to do what they call retrospectives, or just conversations in terms of how to improve the team and how to be better across the board. They give really candid feedback about how they can work better together. And that's what helps them to be more cohesive and more effective teams. That's essential to that kind of growth, because that helps them to grow together and grow in the same direction, as opposed to everyone kind of doing their own thing. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So keep that in mind when you get into the next team environment you have, or when you have the next conversation with your employees or with other colleagues you want to see grow and develop. If you're a mentor, giving your mentee feedback is extremely essential as well. And if you're a mentee, asking for that feedback and being able to receive it is also essential. So you see how this becomes really, really important very quickly. So as you're talking about feedback, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you receive it right now. Some examples of maybe some great feedback you've gotten from a mentor, from a great boss you've had in the past, or maybe some not so great examples. Leave them in the comment section below. We'd love to discuss them with you. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. I hope you had a great time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Great time. I hope you enjoyed the content and it resonates for you. Leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, share this with someone who's relevant too. And yeah, let me know what you guys want to see in the future. All right. Thanks again. Take care. Have a great week. We have an awesome live stream ahead with Bob Pantaliano. He's another business owner that I love working with, and I love to share what he does. And tune in and check that out on Wednesday. All right. Take care, stay safe, and have an awesome week.